Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from everyone around the world. Thank you for joining us on this extra special Workspot webinar today. Today, we have our amazing partner, AWS, and here we are to talk to you about Workspot on the brand new, newly released Amazon Workspaces Core. So this is a fantastic announcement. We're going to go through all the details of it, the differentiation, why it's so compelling, and even go into live demonstrations today. Now, what I do recommend and promote is the notion of questions. You guys can send your questions to us at any point when we're going through the content. Okay, so send them right through in the little questions box. We'll see those, and I'll hand them out to whoever is best to answer that question. We don't want to wait till the end on questions. We'll handle them throughout. Now, myself, Brad Peterson, CTO at Workspot, been around Workspot for about 9 years now, so some time, so very familiar with this market. And I got a couple other gentlemen that are with me today to join and share their expertise on the webinar. So let's go around the horn here, and I'll hand the intro off to Andrew. Andrew from AWS.
Thanks, Brad. Hey, everyone. My name is Andrew Defoe. I'm a principal product manager for AWS and user computing. I've been with Amazon for about 10 years and even longer in the industry, helping customers optimize their end user computing desktop and application workloads, and looking forward to spending time with you today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andrew. And man, thanks for the partnership. And yeah, we got so much great information to share today. We can't wait to get into it. So thanks for joining us. And by the way, like I said, we're going to see a live demo, and those demonstrations are coming from Mr. Tompkins himself. Bill.
Hey, everybody. How are you? Bill Tompkins here. I've been with Workspot for a short time now, about 3 months, but I've spent about 29 years in the end user compute industry, from selling product and services all the way up to designing and planning and implementing end user compute. So thank you for having me.
Great. Okay, and know that later in the webinar, you're going to see the live demos from Bill. And if you have questions for him as he's doing that, do not hesitate. Hey, and by the way, we've got questions for you, and that's where we're going to start off with. I'm going to launch a little poll. And so as you guys see the polling question there, my question to you is, before we get started, is like, where is your, how would you characterize your VDI environment today? Okay, and this is multiple choice, so you can click on multiple of these. So do you have Windows application virtualization? How about Windows desktop or Linux desktop, or maybe some web applications, or even other things that you've got brewing? So go ahead and not only click on the things that you're doing today, but also tell us about the things that you really want to do. So if you're not even doing maybe Linux desktop virt, but you need to do that, click on that too, so we can tell. Okay, and so this is good. So as we present the content and the information as we go forward, we can actually do it in context to the audience that's here today. So go ahead and click on those, and when we're all done, you know what, I've got one more question for you before we go, and that is this question here, which is, how do you host your content and your virtualization today? Is it all on-prem or in a colo? Is it in Amazon, or is it on another cloud out there? And you know, click on everything, because if you're in a colo and you're on multiple clouds, click on just everything that's being involved in not only today where you're hosting your virtualization, but really where you want to go, you know, with this. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And you know, I just want to thank you guys for popping all that information in there. That's very useful. And then what I'm going to do now is you know, kind of jump right in. Okay, and that is right here. So we want to kind of set the stage. We know, because we're getting a lot of prospects and customers coming to us, and they're telling us about the pain that they're feeling in the world today. VDI has always been challenging, but it's a bit more challenging than ever, and it's because of some of these legacy solutions they're finding, and the problems that they're experiencing out there. And I think you guys can relate to the expression on this guy's face. Well, what are those? Well, typically they're finding that their infrastructure costs are going through the roof. They're being forced into, you know, signing contracts for multiple years, 2 or 3 years, and sometimes more. And there's all sorts of technical limitations as well. You guys take a look at the stack on the left side there, and you know, you've seen this before. You've built this many times, right? You got the networking storage server, you put a virtualization layer in, a VDI, you've got the, you know, the access and security layer, and then you even have DEX sitting on top of that. It's complicated, you know, if you have one site, but if you have multiple sites, it just kind of gets out of control. Some of these vendors have been privatized recently, and those prices have gone up, and those relationships are being stressed like never before. We have folks coming in each and every day asking us for alternatives to this world on-prem. And so that's why we're here today. And we have our partner from AWS, Andrew Defoe, who's here to share some details on their recent announcement and how Workspot is working with that. So Andrew, I'll pass this over to you to get into some of those details.
Thanks, Brad. And yeah, just to reiterate, I think we hear as well from customers, who are struggling to exit the data center, facing these challenges, doing more with less, having to maintain, high performance and security, being constrained by expensive and sometimes aging on-prem VDI infrastructure. It's always difficult to scale and costly to maintain on-premises. It's not always trivial to replace. We think we can help, with our portfolio of solutions. We do have a number of services and solutions that address challenges by helping customers maximize value, enhance performance, maintain security, and really just choose the right solution for your specific needs to accelerate that data center exit strategy. Our portfolio consists of course, cloud desktops with extensive instance types, different OS options, managed infrastructure, which we'll talk a lot about today in terms of WorkSpaces Core, that is compatible with leading VDI and DAS partners, especially Workspot. Secure browse solutions starting at a very low flat monthly rate per user for secure SaaS and private web application browsing. Thin client devices that are purpose-built for end user computing services that can be delivered easily through Amazon Business Logistics and Fulfillment. Application streaming services to convert traditional desktop apps to SaaS delivery. And of course, high performance streaming protocols really intrinsic to our desktop and application services and available for custom solutions as well. So with this portfolio, AWS End User Computing is providing the flexibility to support any user type and workload without the constraints of physical infrastructure. In terms of availability, AWS End User Computing services are available across the globe. We allow our customers to place resources in close geographic proximity to users, applications, and data for minimal latency and optimal performance. We, of course, also help customers adhere to applicable data sovereignty requirements. This slide does show the regions where our services are available today. We're always building, always expanding based on customer feedback. If we look back at kind of how virtual desktops on AWS have evolved from migrations of on-premises VDI to self-hosted on Amazon EC2 compute services, and then the launch of Amazon Workspaces desktop as a service for persistent and non-persistent desktops, really characterized by complete infrastructure management that scales on demand, predictable and pay-as-you-go pricing. Workspaces, was available first as a native offering. We launched WorkSpaces Core really to bridge the gap between self-hosted VDI and desktop as a service, so that customers could reap the benefits of Workspaces with differentiated and industry-leading technology and experiences delivered by our partners like Workspot. Workspot has been a fantastic partner that has helped our customers operate and manage virtual desktop and application workloads on WorkSpaces Core. On June 23rd, we just recently launch managed instances for WorkSpaces Core that make it even easier to bridge the gap between self-hosted VDI and managed DAS on AWS. And we'll spend more time talking about managed instances and what's unique about that following Bill's demo. And then to kind of reiterate the current state, as organizations are currently managing and self-managing VDI solutions using software from leading providers like Workspot and others, either on premises or in different clouds, as we discussed, especially from an on-premises perspective, the challenges around expensive infrastructure, exposure to software licensing fee increases, technology obsolescence, inefficient use of IT resources. What WorkSpaces Core really is designed to do is address these challenges by allowing you to continue using familiar VDI management software while leveraging Workspaces for rapid scaling and pay-as-you-go flexibility. So with Core and with your preferred solution, you have the ability to preserve your existing workflows. You don't have to retrain staff. You don't have to change the end user experience. You're using the same familiar tooling, utilizing the Workspaces and AWS infrastructure service to be able to provide those capabilities in a much more agile way. As part of that, of course, with Workspaces and WorkSpaces Core, you have the ability to bring existing Microsoft 365 apps for enterprise and run them on Workspaces with your VDI solution like Workspot. We've built Workspaces Core for organizations wanting cloud benefits without disrupting established VDI operations.
You know, that does bring up a couple of questions that came in from the audience here. The first one is like, how do we bring our Microsoft 365 licenses over on top of AWS Workspaces Core?
Yeah, so the ability to bring 365 apps for enterprise licenses and the eligible licenses is an arrangement that we have with Microsoft that is specific to Workspace's portfolio of services. So if you're a customer that has active subscriptions for Microsoft 365, E3, E5, A3, A5, if you're in academia, G3, G5 for government SKUs, those are eligible licenses that customers can bring to Workspaces. You're able to utilize those licenses in shared tenancy for Windows desktop, Windows Server within your AWS account. With Windows Desktop, including Windows 10 and now, of course, Windows 11, dedicated is a requirement for those workloads. But for overall 365 apps, as long as it's happening on Workspaces and happening on Windows, you have the ability to bring those eligible licenses. You don't need to notify AWS or Workspot, and those are licenses you're able to bring easily and be able to run those on Workspaces.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, hey, more questions are coming in. I love this active audience here. The Windows desktops we're talking about, the question is, are they running Windows Server or actual Windows desktops?
So from a 365 apps perspective, Windows is eligible to run those applications, and of course we support both the desktop flavors and the server flavors. And Bill, you may want to speak to the overall support that you have for operating systems within Workspot.
Sure, thanks, Andrew. So we support Windows 10, Windows 11 today. From a desktop operating system perspective, and also Windows 2019 Server 2022, 2025, Core as well as Data Center, and also various flavors of Linux that we can provide to our users through a VDI broker.
Excellent. Hey, and when you're running these desktops, is there any limit to the session length?
There can be if you want it to be. So we have policies that we employ within the Workspot platform, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but some of these policies allow us to spin up and spin down as needed based on usage from your users around the globe.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, cool. All right, and I think as we go forward, we're going to actually explain later on, Andrew, the difference between Workspaces offering earlier, Workspaces Core, and now the new Workspaces Core on managed instances, the significant difference. And that's a part of the new announcement. And certainly today we need to clear that up because there's a lot of folks that are very familiar with Workspaces Core, but not the new announcement of managed instances. So just to let folks know, that's the idea there. Okay, and okay, so cool. So let's go on. I got a question for you guys too, and that is, I'm going to launch a poll. What is your biggest concern with VDI today? Now, this is multiple choice, so pick your top three out of here. Okay, is it user experience, cost, complexity, security, observability? Just pick the top three that are most important to you, and then we'll have a feel for that. Now, it's interesting over time how this has actually changed quite a bit. It used to be security all the time, and now, you know, there's another few choices that we're seeing. In fact, I'm seeing that as you guys are voting now. It's observability and end user experience. You know, it's interesting because users aren't limited to a 50-mile radius where they work anymore. You know, now you can work anywhere in the world as you're remote. So observability and end user experience are the top runners for sure. And then cost is always in there as well. So that is definitely a shift that we're seeing. It's very consistent across the polls going forward. All right, hey, so with that now, I'm gonna, and keep those questions coming. Thank you very much. I am gonna jump into Workspot now, Workspot on Workspaces Core, the new Workspaces Core on managed instances, right? Now, historically, oh, and by the way, just let me be clear, Workspot supports your environment, your virtualization environment, if it's on-prem also. So we have folks on-prem and data centers and colos all over the world. That's certainly there. But if you're having challenges there, there is also an opportunity to go into the cloud, or you might be in both places, on-prem and in the cloud. But look at this, if you are doing VDI and you're having challenges with maybe security or cost overruns or contract issues and things like that, it's good to know you can pop into the cloud and do it in a very graceful way. And that's what we're going to share with you today. So the notion of VDI on-prem, or the notion of DaaS, desktop as a service, which is out of a cloud. So we simplify this infrastructure with the cloud, and we have persistent, non-persistent apps and everything that we talked about now. So that's the move into the cloud. But we want to go to another level, which is let's make sure we have FinOps associated with this also, okay? So step 2, and that's to optimize this cost. You can't have runaway costs. You don't want urban sprawl with your VMs and find out at the end of the month you have this huge bill because you didn't know things were running. Well, you won't get that in this case, and that's key. You can't really do this without really tightly coupled FinOps. And the other thing is, as you guys have told me in the polling question, is that end user experience is very important. So DEX, optimizing that user's experience, collecting user sentiment, you're going to hear more about that today. That is kind of a must when you go into the cloud also. The next thing is not everybody has a virtual Windows desktop or Linux desktop or Windows application. They may just use web applications, or a portion of their day is doing web applications. So the notion of no infrastructure whatsoever, but an enterprise browser securing that experience allows you to do that on your laptop as well as your mobile device wherever you are. Now, when you kind of combine that with AI and machine learning to really be intelligent about how you process this whole thing, you can not only deliver a great user experience, but you can have the lowest costs you can imagine. And that's what we're talking about today. So Workspot Cloud Workplace, combining DaaS and FinOps and DEX and Enterprise Browser and AI together in a package and popping that on top of integrated and coupled with Amazon WorkSpaces Core on Managed Instances, all right? Reducing costs by 80%, we're gonna show you how. Great user experience. Not only can you get this onto your desktop and use it, but even onto a mobile device is something that you're gonna experience and see. It changes the game entirely. Okay, now, if you are running on a desktop, you'll have a unified client. So the Workspot Cloud Workplace Unified Client allows you to pop in the icons for the resources you need to access. If you need to get to a desktop, whether it's a hosted shared desktop or whether it's a full-on desktop, Linux, Windows, whether it's an application, whether it's an enterprise browser or web application, you can deliver those to the users with the security that you need, and you're gonna see a lot of this in the demonstration when we go forward today, all right? Now, our focus on all of this is really in 2 areas. It's really focusing on making sure the CFO is happy and then the users are happy. And boy, by the way, if we go back to our last poll, those were the 2 highest ranking issues that you showed us today, was user experience and cost. It seems to be across the board in all the webinars we've been doing lately, and it's exactly where we're focused. So how do we keep the CFO happy, right? We're talking about up to 80% cost reduction when you go into the cloud. Now, this is a combination of various things that I'll show you in just a minute, all right? Now, we keep the users happy. Also, we give them the best user experience, all sorts of details here, and let's go into that now. All right, so AI and machine learning driven optimization in various areas. First of all, for the CFO, usage forecasting, and we're going to show you this not only in some screenshots coming up, but in the live demo. We can take a look at how your users and how many of your users are actually using the various resources and when, and with that, we can tune the system to make sure we do just-in-time provisioning, provide that VM to them just when they need it, but don't run those VMs when they don't need it. And then just enough. When they're done, kill that VM and the clock stops running. You stop paying for it. So when you do this, you actually get just the right sized resource to the user when they need it, but when they're not using it, they're not paying for it. It's gone. So that's like suspend, resume, right? Pause, resume. And this is amazing because when you actually poll your users in your organization and you take a look at how often they're using those resources, they're not really using them all day long. It could be 2 hours a day, 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, and so on. And when you pay for those things hourly, or even at a smaller resolution, you're going to save enormous amounts of money, because that's what the cloud is all about, providing those resources and consuming them on demand. Now, on the happy user side, we actually poll our users to get the user sentiment. When they close the client, it says, how'd things go for you? On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 stars being best, and a little box where they can leave a comment. All that information is collected, and we can see throughout the user base how they're grouped together in pools in the organization around the world. We can tell if they're having an issue, how they're feeling about the product today, and that's huge. All of that traffic in real time and trend analysis is recorded, so we can do instantaneous root cause analysis like never before. So all this DEX is built in. If you take a look down below, this goes into a little of those details architecturally, so you can see how this is actually, figured out for us and collected. If you go over to the left-hand side, you've got that Workspot client. So whatever that device is, there's an agent running in the client, collecting a lot of information about the endpoint, that network, and that connects in through a secured gateway. Wherever that's running, there's a lot of information, could be on a cloud in a region, that's collecting information there too. Now back onto the VM itself, well, that's going to be running on an operating system with compute, storage, networking, back in a data center or a cloud, and we're going to collect all that information as well. So from end to end, you collect that information and you have real-time alarms and trend analysis. You can stay on top of those issues, prevent issues before they even arise, and when they do arise, handle them quickly to keep those users happy. And that's the user happy side. On the CFO side, boy, if you actually shut down a bunch of VMs in the cloud and they don't actually shut down, you're going to find out at the end of the month, and that's going to be a surprise and expensive, but we will throw an immediate alarm to let you know that's the case, and you can take manual intervention if you need to shut off the VMs that should not be running. CFOs love that too. We have a lot of customers that are showing 40 and 50% savings based on just in time and just enough provisioning with usage forecasting. It's changing the game significantly, okay? So this goes into a little bit of details on the math here. If you're on-prem and you have a full-on commitment, 24/7, there's costs associated with that, and you'll get a certain amount of utilization on that. You got to kind of build for peak load, but it's really very seldom that you're running at peak load. So you might get 12 to 18% utilization over there. There's a lot of wasted cost. You go into the cloud, just as I described, just in time, just enough, usage forecasting. It's crazy the amount of savings that you can do now in 2025, okay? And so this takes a look at that cost breakdown, just a little quick example. Okay, so these first two use cases here, like a contact center and AEC design, that's architectural engineering and construction. This is a couple of non-persistent examples, whether it's CPU and GPU, and you can talk about 20 to 75% an hour, 75 cents an hour for a GPU accelerated machine. And if you take a look at the number of hours they're doing and that cost, it's significantly less than reserving these or paying monthly prices on these. You actually pay as you go on demand. And then there's a couple examples for some persistence down here as well. So the math is slightly different, but you can see the huge advantage, and the customers are really seeing that as well. So how do we know what's going on and how do we control this? Well, this is in our Watch and Trends products. So Workspot Watch, Workspot Trends. Watch is real-time alarms, and Trends is trend analysis over the years of all the things that are coming together to make this happen. So first of all, just-in-time provisioning. You can set this up in Control so that as users are coming on, we have a few warmed up sessions that are ready, and bam, they can pop right in and they can grab a VM and go to town. But when they're done, it'll kill it and stop the clock from running. Okay, we've got those real-time alarms. So when these VMs are being killed, as they should, no one's using anymore, if for some reason one's stuck and it's still running, bam, real-time alarm. This is COGS, as you can see on the right side. It's a COGS error, cost of goods sold. You do not want to pay for things that you're not using. We will help you identify that and kill that as soon as possible. We also graph this stuff out with our machine learning algorithms that go in and take a look at all the usage throughout each and every day. And they can plot that red line in there, which is excess capacity. You probably want a little excess capacity, but not too much. You want people to be able to have excess capacity in the morning when they're firing things up, but not later on. So you can monitor that and you can tighten that down in the algorithm. We can also look at AI-driven usage forecasting, not only what happened, what we predicted before, what was used against that, but what we're predicting for next week. Also, keep an eye on these, monitor these things, and tune them up. And that really takes us into this heat map, which is amazing. You got the columns here, which is Sunday, through Saturday. You can see the weekdays in there, and then the afternoon and the middle of the day. The heat map is where everybody's banging away on the VMs and really using this information. And they're not using it outside that, so guess what? You're not paying for it. So when you get into the cloud, the model changes significantly. The new capabilities of pause, resume, tying this all together with just in time and just enough and usage forecasting changes the game entirely. Most people haven't experienced this at all, and it is time to take advantage of this. All right, now there's much more in here too. There's alarm patterning, so we can see your users where they are all around the world. We can go into any particular user and look at all the connection details associated with an individual if that's what you need to do. And also even connection tracing, a particular user that's coming and doing various activities. Let's look at that thread. They're complaining about an issue. Let's go find out where the problem is. Is it near the user? Is it a proximity issue? Is it a gateway? Is it within the actual cloud and the resources there? You can find out. And we have AI-driven root cause analysis. So we've seen this so many times before. We can use AI and machine learning to figure out exactly what the pattern and the trend is to find the root cause analysis and alleviate it as soon as possible. End users love that. If they have a problem, seldomly, but when they do, if it's fixed fast, they're super happy. And then, like I said, trend analysis, when they do click close on the client, well, what happens, a little pop-up window says, how was your experience? 1 through 5 stars on a little box to give us a comment. Those things are amazing. You go in and you look at those and you can find your end users that are giving you feedback directly, whether they're super happy or something went wrong. And when they do, you can correlate that back into trends and see what was going on in the system at that time. Was it a pool problem? Was it a network congestion issue? Was it just their own issue they had at home? You can tell that through the correlation and the trend analysis that's there. It's amazing, okay? And when you do, this is what it looks like, right? You pop in and you can take a look at the network traffic that was going on then, the real-time, transmits that were going on, and the response times and the latency issues and so forth, the packet loss, the latency to the disk drive, if you need to find that information out, correlate that back to someone complaining about a bad experience, and you can figure it all out, okay? Well, that's just a little sample, but what we want to do now is we want to hand it over to Bill to go into a live demo. And again, while Bill's going, you guys make sure if you have any questions along the way, you ask them real time, and we will address those, okay? All right. Hey, Bill, over to you.
Thank you, Brad. How are you? So I think we're going to start today with a brief tutorial or a brief demo here. I'm going to move my windows around and get things right while we're sitting here. And we're going to start with the client first. So as you can see, we have the Workspot client sitting here. I have Outlook, I have web applications. As Brad talked about, we have an enterprise browser that is built directly into a Chromium-based browser that's built directly into the Workspot client, which is a containerized client in itself. So as I start opening some of these applications, you'll notice that I'm logging right into these. I look at my reports, I see what I need to do. Web-based, I don't have any address bar where I can't go outside of the application unless there's an external link there. And everything, as Brad said, everything is monitored and understood through watch and trends, what I'm doing. I also have desktops, all 3 versions of the desktop. So I have a shared desktop, I have a persistent desktop. We're going to launch this persistent desktop, and I'm going to move it to a window here, just for sake of space on the desktop. But the Workspace client, when I close my client, there's another aspect of what's actually taking place with that client. When I close my client, everything closes because it is a containerized client. So I only have to worry about any activity that's running in the client. Size that so it looks good. There we go. So here's my AWS Workspaces Core desktop running in Amazon through Workspot. But when you notice, if I close my client here, and I'll do that in a minute, when I close my client, my desktop will actually close because it is a containerized client. Also, it doesn't allow me to, unless I appropriate the right policies, it doesn't allow me to move any data in and out of the client. So I can screen capture inside my desktop and come out of the desktop, and I don't have any of that based on the policies and containerization. So So here's a very, very brief demo of the desktop, but let's understand. So I close my client, everything goes away. So let's now understand. So that's really what your users will encounter, more from I guess a consumer of services perspective. Let's take a look at what actually makes that happen. So Control, Workspot Control is one of the 3 core components that make up Workspot right now. It's really the single pane of glass or the one-stop shop where you create, maintain, manage the entire life cycle of your VDI environment. So from an admin perspective, once I'm in Control, we see very quickly that my licenses, what I have allocated, what I have used. If I come to my setup tab here, we'll understand here that I can define my cloud subscriptions here. You notice that we have Amazon WorkSpaces Core, bring your own computer here, but also private cloud. So we have, a lot of customers that we work with are in the process of now migrating. So they want to be able to provide on-prem dedicated instances for VDI to their users, but they also want to have a cloud instance where they can start migrating those users to that environment. We also have some other customers out there that need to maintain a data center and need to maintain some of their VDI and applications running in their data center due to regulations, right? So also looking at from a one-stop shop perspective, I set up my cloud connections, my gateways. If I look at my gateways, this aligns with your organization's geographical requirements based on your dispersed set of users, really defining regional access approach to your users. Company-wide settings. If I come into here, you'll notice that I can now define how the Workspot client looks to your users, how often your users get your survey, as Brad was talking about. Your directory services, user registration options, how we define approved networks within the environment, and what's your identity provider, for instance, up here. If I move to resources here, this is really where the rubber meets the road. So this is where I create and allocate desktop pools, global pools, application pools, and bundles. These tools really allow the way Workspot integrates with these cloud hypervisors out there. It allows us to maintain the entire life cycle of your VDI cloud resource without needing to have direct access to, in this case, your AWS account. Control is where you integrate your users. You pull your users in directly from your directory services, creating and applying policies. And I'm just going very quickly here, but we have a number of different types of policies to enhance and restrict how your users really integrate with the environment, what the abilities your users have. And these, the enhancement or restrictions really could be based on how your company works, the company policies, and even regulations to your industry. If I go to events here, you'll notice that every single event in the environment is logged. Regardless of the user account which is making any changes, regardless of whether it was a mistake or potentially done with malice, these events are logged and maintained for awareness and potentially troubleshooting purposes in the future. So I think we all know that in the event that something is happening on a day-to-day, one of the first questions that you'll get is, what's changed in the environment? This is where we can start coming through and expanding our view to understand what was actually done. We can figure out exactly what changes were made within the environment. So this is Control. If I move to Workspot, now we see from move to Watch. Looking at the Watch admin, the minute I come in here, I get a very, very quick synopsis of my usage, my total amount of app servers and desktop users and desktops sitting in the environment. I also understand a critical alarm and warning and how many things have been resolved. And something that's very new to watch right now is this is the real-time observability tool. So this is collecting data and showing you data in real time. So new to us right now is the top 3 event codes that are based on critical alarms within the environment. And obviously, day by day, this could change. But this gives you a very, very clean understanding of what's going on in the environment, what are the things that I should be looking at from an admin or even a support person. If I move over to the Alarms tab, you'll see that I have multiple alerts, and I can now look at all the alarms and start digging down into these alarms. I can look at only critical alarms, but another thing that I can do here is, as Brad was talking about, I can now start digging into what these alarms are, go to my root cause analysis within the environment. But one thing that I can do is if I come here and start looking at, for instance, some of my infrastructure. So these are gateways within the environment. Now, directly from Watch, I can now start taking preventative maintenance here. I can put these items into maintenance mode and start installing the patches, because now I can see that I have a patch issue on this one server where the patch date is 8 days, and it foregoes our threshold for patching. If I also look at alarms and look at, for instance, desktops stuck in an online state. If I move to a map view within this environment, now I can start understanding where these desktops are, which really starts giving me the understanding of, do I have a cloud issue, or is this possibly a very simple issue with random users? I can start understanding, is it cloud, is it regional? Are all my issues in one area, and are the issues growing here? So that's a very, very quick synopsis on Workspace Watch. And now let's move to trends. Let me get here. If I come into trends, so trends is the historical observation tool. We log into trends. The very first thing that you see is a very quick understanding of your environment. We have a sentiment rating that we see for the environment. We have cloud desktop usage. We also have cloud app usage. And we have an area down here that we'll get to in a little bit from sizing. So very, very quickly, we can understand what our users are within the environment for a period of time. And also, what our daily usage, our averages are from a per hour and a daily usage within the environment. Also, what top cloud app usage we have, right, for our cloud applications. If I move to desktop pools, again, we come immediately to sentiment. We can start understanding here, just based on just looking at the top graph here, that we have less of a rating, if you will, for desktop pool that's sitting out here. So that's one of those things that maybe we should investigate that. We have a higher rating on these other two pools, and we have a lower rating on this pool. So just from a tool perspective, let's try to understand why we have that rating and how can we grow that rating. Now, if we move to sizing, which is one of my favorites because it has to do with saving us some money, what we'll understand here is that the system, based on AI and machine learning, the system understands that we have, in this environment, we have 102 desktops that are undersized within the environment. It could be based on CPU, it could be based on memory, and it could be based jointly. So we can look at all of these things here. But also, if we look at oversized desktops, now we have 1,000 oversized desktops. So one thing that I would look at is, from an undersized desktop, what productivity are we losing from our end users? What type of challenges are they having struggling with a resource that itself is struggling to keep up with the work that they're trying to do? And then from an oversized desktop, we have 1,000 oversized desktops. We should start investigating this and start understanding where we can actually resize these resources for our users. You can see that the raw data in the system says that we're 1,000 machines oversized. So at that point, we're paying for machines and we're paying for resources on an ongoing day-by-day and weekly and monthly basis. This is an aspect of the environment where we can start understanding this information using this tool and start resizing this environment a little bit bigger on the undersized and a little bit smaller on the oversized, and still providing our users ample resources in order to do their job. If we move over to a usage heat map, Brad touched on this a little bit. We start understanding, and we can skim this down to a very specific time here. We start looking at these graphs. We can see from what's in excess, what's actually in use, and what's been paused within the environment. Again, we can start taking this raw data that's now turned into useful and valuable information, and we can understand what we're doing from a policy perspective, from a just-in-time and a just-enough aspect. When are we spinning these machines up? When the users are logging off, what's the time frame whether we're bringing those machines offline and not paying for them anymore? If we look at our heat map in the same area, we understand, as Brad said, from a day-by-day perspective, but also where does our environment really start to heat up? And this is great to understand where our users are actually using the environment. But if we go to the next area where it's excess desktops within the heat map, when we have high utilization in this area, we also have multiple machines, actually hundreds of machines, that are sitting dormant, either because we sized the pool too big, or because users are logging off and we're not actually shutting those machines down. So I always look at customers, and I have large conversations and sort of valuable conversations with our customers around the heat maps and the sizing, because this information will actually bring you to that 40 to 60% savings if we run and manage this environment in a valuable manner using this information. And I'd love to have some conversations with anybody out there who's looking to understand how they can better manage the environment and save a lot of money while providing ample resources.
Well, thank you, Bill. That's that's amazing. There are a couple of questions that come up along the way. So when you brought the client up earlier, the question is, where does that client run, on which OSs? So on PC, Mac, iOS, Android, Linux, browser. Did you want to talk about that for a minute?
Sure. So I'm currently running on a Mac, but the client runs on Mac, Windows, Linux. There's an iGel form of that client. There's a web form of that client, and iOS and Android as well.
Beautiful. So a lot of coverage there, and then even outside that, just pop a browser and connect that way also.
Indeed.
All right, excellent. Okay, so let's pop back here and continue on.
One note on that, Brad. When you do use the web browser client, the web client, you will not get the access to the enterprise browser, because that is contained within the Windows and Mac client.
Oh, yes, exactly. In the executable itself, which is the client. And that's interesting to note, is that the executable, the Windows, Workspot client executable that you install, inside that has the ability to do RDP protocols to pull down desktops and applications, but it also has the enterprise browser built into it as well.
Correct.
connecting to all those various environments. Excellent.
Indeed.
All right, thanks for that. And again, if there are more questions, just pop those guys in. And and there was another comment here, which was from Avan, which said, can we get a recording of this session? Because he had to take off to meet with a client. And absolutely. This is being recorded, and I will send a link to the recording to all those that have registered. All right, hey, so Andrew, let's summarize things as we wrap up. I know there's questions, as I'm seeing in here, on a little bit of confusion between Amazon Workspaces and AppStream and what it's been for many, many, many years, and then the new offering of Workspaces Core Managed Instances on EC2. Maybe you could clarify that, show some of the differentiation, and then we'll talk a bit more about how Workspot plugs into this new offering and more capabilities.
Thanks, Brad. And yeah, earlier in the presentation, I alluded to kind of the intent of Workspaces Core, which is really about bridging the gap between self-hosted VDI, whether you're doing that on premises or in the cloud, and then native desktop as a service. With Workspaces and AppStream native services from AWS, which have been around and continue to be available for our customers. What we focus on with those solutions is turnkey desktop and application services. They're curated configurations, pre-configured with hardware and software for the most common use cases. We focus on simplicity. We focus on ease of getting going, ease of onboarding, pay as you go, no additional licensing. It's everything you need is right there for those curated use cases. And we love for customers to take advantage of that. I think from Bill's demo, and what he showed in terms of the overall landscape, what of course you may have is a hybrid scenario. You may be running a combination of VDI in your data center, and you want to burst to the cloud, or you want to utilize the cloud for disaster recovery, or you're in the migration process to exit that data center and move completely to the cloud. Or maybe you're in a multi-cloud model and you want to operate in multiple clouds because of where your applications and data happen to reside. And so I think that's where we create some opportunities for Core to play a role, because with Core, we can marry up our infrastructure and managed services with leading solutions like Workspot, where you have the ability to address those hybrid and multi-cloud use cases really effectively from a single pane of glass. We're excited about the new operator service paradigm for Workspaces Core with Workspaces Core Managed Instances. This is a new offering that we launched on June 23rd. With this kind of paradigm, Core and then Amazon EC2 as a foundational compute service, we provide even more flexibility to balance the trade-offs between self-hosted VDI and kind of native daas up and to the right in terms of the spectrum. So with managed instances, what we're enabling is our partners, especially Workspot, to operate managed desktop infrastructure in the customer's AWS account context. And what that basically means is it's a differentiated operator model compared with Workspaces and AppStream, where today we highly abstract away the underlying infrastructure and resources. Of course, there's value in that. We simplify the overall model. But what we also want to be able to do with managed instances is really increase kind of the flexibility, especially with Workspot as a partner that can really help you control and optimize all of that, whether you're optimizing for experience for the end user or optimizing financially and from a cost performance perspective to keep everything running in an optimal way from that standpoint. Core managed instances is going to be a really effective, I think, service layer to be able to facilitate that. And so the instances that are managed by Workspaces, and of course through Workspot utilizing Workspaces APIs, they are delegated as managed instances inside of your AWS account. They're treated differently than traditional EC2 because of that. And so we provide resource protection, we provide policies and governance around those instances in a way that's unique compared to traditional EC2. And this distinction really makes it possible for us to govern the entire life cycle for the instance, protect the resources from configuration drift or other inadvertent changes in the environment, so that Workspot as the partner and kind of the control plane has the full ability to kind of manage that instance and manage that in whether it's for applications or for desktops in terms of daas. And then we provide better interoperability, not just for in the AWS customer account context. We're providing the interoperability for AWS Security Hub, Systems Manager, the full suite of AWS tooling. Because it's running in your account, you have full and native access to those interoperable tools. And of course, you then are able to take advantage of Workspot's full feature set. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But with managed instances, just to summarize, you have access to the full range of compute and storage configurations available on AWS. You have the ability to operate that managed infrastructure in more AWS regions and availability zones. And I would also include in that local zones for those very high performance, low latency scenarios. Managed instances overall with Core is going to open the door for, I think, much more sophisticated and broad use cases that you'll bring, and to be able to operate that in a multi-cloud, hybrid, or all-in operator model with Workspot.
Yeah, exactly. And what's amazing is that clarification is huge, because it's such a quantum sort of leap forward in the new offering now with Workspaces Core Managed Instances on EC2 Managed Instances, and giving them all the access to the capabilities within their account. And then on Workspaces Core now, so you can bring in your Microsoft 365 licenses, which is amazing. And then Workspot takes advantage of that platform offering, clicks on top of that. And so if you look at the bottom of the slide, then we add into this mix the simplicity, the flexibility, the availability, and the observability that we've talked about so far. So it is, as Bill showed, a single control plane to manage all these use cases. So whether they're apps or persistent or non-persistent desktops, Linux, Windows or Linux, and whether it is CPU or GPU, and then it's all sort of pay as you go, just as we talked about earlier, just in time and just enough to keep the costs down. The flexibility of tying it into all of that customer security that you guys are already used to in your accounts, as Andrew talked about, and the availability, because it's across so many more regions and actually growing. That map is growing all the time. And then, of course, all that layered in observability that we shared, not only in the presentation, but also in the live demo, the AI and machine learning driven FinOps and DEX capabilities that are in there. All right, so with that, we just want to pop into this last slide here that just talks about next steps. If you guys scan that QR code, that'll take you right over to our web page dedicated toward this relationship on Workspot. And there's so much more behind that too. There is our docs.workspot.com site for getting started. You go into there, it'll actually talk you through all the technology associated with it, but you're not on your own. Reach out to us and we'll help you with this list you see on the left-hand side here. Not only creating the tenant and the zone and so forth, but even the Terraform and the templates and so forth. All this work has been done already, and it can really short circuit it. So we work with you closely to bring this environment up and to make it efficient. And then, of course, we're there with you, as a customer vendor relationship to help you monitor this and keep it running all the time. Now, my last question to everyone here is, first of all, a thank you for joining us, and then asking you the question, how can we best follow up with you? You let us know. Did you want additional materials on this specifically? We can send you to our docs site, which is filled with rich content, in fact, video examples also. We can also share the copy of the recording. You guys can see it again, as well as you can share it with other folks on your team. And if you want to get engaged in something right away, some sort of pilot, let us know. And if you just, you have so many specific questions for your site, let's just set up a meeting. We'll go through all of this, but we'll answer all the questions you have that are in context and specific to your environment and your objectives, and that is for sure, okay? All right, so let me close that poll. Thank you for that feedback. And that is it. It is a wrap. I just want to thank everyone for joining us today and all your interaction on the polls and your questions that have come in. Just to let you guys know, as soon as we end this, there'll be a survey that pops up. If you guys could even put more notes in there, that's really helpful too. And I'd like to thank the gang here for joining and presenting and sharing their knowledge. Andrew, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Bill.
Hey, Bill, thanks for coming.
Thank you, folks. I appreciate the opportunity.
Beautiful, great demo. And Andrew, thanks for all that information. If you have any additional questions, brad@workspot.com, super easy to find. Send them off to me and I will follow up, and expect another email from me that has a link to the recording, and that's coming soon, okay? So take care, everyone. We look forward to you guys joining us on our future webinars. You'll see those invitations coming as well. Have a great rest of the day and great rest of the week. Take care, everyone. Talk soon.
Thanks all. Take care.
Bye-bye.